The autumn sun hung low over Sweetwater, casting long shadows across the dusty main street. The town square buzzed with an ugly sort of excitement that made decent folk look away. Men gathered in clusters, passing bottles and spitting tobacco juice into the dirt, their laughter sharp as broken glass. Ezra Langley stood at the edge of the crowd, his weathered Stetson pulled low against the glare. At 32, he cut an imposing figure, tall and broad-shouldered, with the kind of quiet strength that made other men step aside. His ranch sprawled across 5,000 acres of prime grassland, making him one of the wealthiest men in 3 counties. But wealth hadn't softened him. His gray eyes held the same cold distance as the mountains that bordered his land. "Gentlemen," the auctioneer's voice cracked like a whip, "we got ourselves a special lot today. A package deal, you might say." The crowd pressed closer, and Ezra found himself swept along despite his distaste for the proceedings. He'd come to town for supplies, not this circus. Then he saw them. A woman stood on the platform, her chin raised despite the circumstances. She couldn't have been more than 25, with dark hair pulled back in a simple knot and a faded calico dress that had seen better days. But it was her eyes that caught him, green as spring grass, and blazing with a fury that made the men nearest the platform shift uneasily. 2 children huddled against her skirts, a girl of perhaps 7, with her mother's coloring but none of her defiance, only naked fear. A boy, smaller still, maybe 4 or 5, clutching a wooden horse with whitened knuckles. "The widow Hawthorne," the auctioneer announced with theatrical flair, "recently bereaved and in need of, shall we say, protection. Comes with 2 young'uns, hard workers, all of them. Bidding starts at $50. Ezra's jaw tightened. He'd heard of such things, desperate women with no kin, no means of support. Reduced to this, the practice skirted the edges of decency and law, but in frontier towns, might often made right. "60, someone called out. 75. The woman June, he'd later learn, kept her gaze fixed on some distant point, as if she could will herself elsewhere, but her hands, resting on her children's shoulders, trembled slightly. "Come on, boys," the auctioneer urged. "Pretty widow like this, she'll keep your bed warm and your house clean. 2 for the price of 1, them kids'll work the fields come spring." 100. This from Wade Carroll, a rancher from the valley. Ezra knew him by reputation, cruel to his horses, worse to his men. The crowd murmured approval. Some men laughed. One made a crude gesture that sent heat crawling up Ezra's neck. "Going once. 200. The words left Ezra's mouth before he could stop them. Every head turned. Wade Carroll's face darkened. 250. 500. Ezra stepped forward, his spurs ringing against the wooden platform steps. Gasps rippled through the crowd. $500 was more than most men saw in a year. The auctioneer's eyes bulged. "Sir, did you say $500? Ezra reached the platform, ignoring the stunned faces below. "Unless Mr. Carroll would like to continue." Wade spat into the dust. "Langley thinks he can buy everything in this town." "Apparently so," Ezra said mildly. "Do we have a deal?" The auctioneer looked between them, sensing the undercurrent of violence that suddenly charged the air. "Sold to Mr. Langley for $500. As Ezra counted out the bills, someone in the crowd called out, "What you gonna do with them, Langley? Start a collection." Laughter erupted, ugly and mean. Someone else shouted, "Bet he breaks her in before sundown." Ezra turned slowly, his hand drifting to the Colt at his hip. The laughter died. In the silence that followed, he said, "Any man who wants to discuss my business is welcome to ride out to my place. I'll be happy to oblige." No one moved. That's what I thought. He turned to June. Up close, he could see the shadows under her eyes, the way her dress hung loose on her frame. "Ma'am, if you and your children would come with me." She studied him for a long moment. This woman he'd just bought like cattle. Then she leaned close, so close he could smell the lavender soap she must have hoarded from better times, and whispered something in his ear. Whatever she said, it hit him like a physical blow. His face went white, then red, for a heartbeat. Ezra Langley, who'd faced down rustlers and claim jumpers without blinking, looked genuinely shaken. Then he recovered, straightening his shoulders. "My wagon's outside," he said quietly. June gathered her children and followed him down the steps. The crowd parted, their whispers following like dust devils. The ride to the Langley Ranch stretched for miles under a vast sky. Ezra handled the reins while June sat beside him, her children pressed between them. No one spoke. The only sounds were the creak of wheels and the distant cry of a hawk. Finally, the boy Boone piped up. "Are we going to live with you now, Mr.?" Ezra glanced down at him. "Seems so." "Do you have horses?" "A few. Can I pet them?" "Boone," June said quietly. "Don't bother Mr. Langley." "He's not bothering me." Ezra found himself almost smiling. "You like horses, boy?" "Yes, sir. Pa let me ride his sometimes, before he—" The child trailed off, his small face crumpling. "Well," Ezra said after a moment, "I've got a mare who just foaled. Maybe you'd like to meet them." The boy's eyes widened. Even June looked surprised. As they crested the final ridge, the Langley Ranch spread before them, the main house solid and welcoming. Barns and corrals arranged with careful precision, all of it backed by mountains that scraped the sky. "It's so big," Clara whispered, speaking for the first time. "Yes," Ezra agreed. "Plenty of room to get lost in, if that's what a person wants." June's hands tightened in her lap. "Why did you do it?" He was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Couldn't stand to see Wade Carroll get what he wanted. Man like that." He shook his head. "And maybe I'm tired of eating my own cooking." "That's all. That's all." But they both knew he was lying. Whatever she'd whispered to him back on that platform had changed something, shifted the ground under his feet. As they pulled up to the house, ranch hands emerged from various buildings, their curiosity plain. Ezra helped June down from the wagon, his hands careful and impersonal at her waist. "Tom," he called to his foreman, "this is Mrs. Hawthorne and her children. They'll be staying. Have Cookie set extra places for supper." Tom's weathered face betrayed nothing. "Yes, sir." "And Tom, any man who shows disrespect will be looking for new employment. Make sure that's clear." "Crystal clear, boss." Ezra turned back to June. "I'll show you to your rooms. You'll want to get settled before dark." As they entered the house, June shepherding her children, Ezra carrying their meager belongings, the sun touched the horizon, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called to its pack. June paused in the doorway, looking back at the wagon, at the road that led to town, at the life she was leaving behind. Then she squared her shoulders and stepped inside, into whatever uncertain future awaited in this house of strangers. The door closed behind them with a sound like finality. Outside, the ranch hands returned to their work, but their glances kept drifting to the house, wondering what sort of change this woman and her whispered words would bring to the Langley Ranch. In the growing dusk, the mountains stood eternal and indifferent, keeping their silence as they had for 1,000 years before this day, and would for 1,000 years after. The house was quiet, except for the settling sounds old wood makes at night. Ezra stood in the kitchen, nursing a cup of coffee gone cold, his mind circling back to those whispered words like a tongue finding a sore tooth. Mr. Langley." He turned to find June in the doorway, wrapped in a shawl he'd found for her. In the lamplight, she looked younger, more vulnerable than she had on that platform. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. "The children are settled. Clara took some convincing. She's afraid you'll change your mind come morning." "I won't." "How can she know that? How can any of us know that?" Ezra set down his cup. What's your full name? I should know that much. June Hawthorne. My husband was Samuel. He died 3 months ago. Fever took him. She moved into the kitchen, keeping the table between them. Your turn. Why did a man like you need to buy a widow and her children? I told you. You lied. Her green eyes flashed. Men don't spend $500 to spite a neighbor or acquire a cook. They studied each other across the scarred oak table. Finally, Ezra said, maybe I recognize something in you. That look, like you'd fight the whole world with your bare hands if it came for your children. June's shoulders relaxed slightly. And what do you know about fighting the whole world? Enough. He pushed back from the table. You can have the main bedroom. I'll take the bunkhouse tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out arrangements. Wait. She caught his sleeve as he passed. What I said to you. At the auction, I need to know you understood. Ezra looked down at her hand on his arm. I understood. And nothing changes. You're here. You're safe. That's what matters. June released him slowly. Thank you. He nodded and headed for the door, collecting his bedroll from the corner. The night air hit him like a slap, cold and sharp with coming winter. In the bunkhouse, the hands were still awake, playing cards by lantern light. Boss, Tom said carefully. Everything all right? Fine. Ezra threw his bedroll on an empty bunk. Deal me in. But he couldn't concentrate on the cards. His mind kept returning to June's whisper, the man who bought my husband's debt says I belong to him now. He'll come for us. He always does. Morning came with frost on the windows and the smell of bacon. Ezra entered his own house cautiously, half expecting June to have disappeared in the night. Instead, he found her at the stove, Boone setting the table while Clara swept the floor. You're up early, he said. Farm habits die hard. June didn't turn around. Clara, show Mr. Langley what you found. The girl held up one of his shirts, mended so neatly the tear was invisible. Mama fixed it. She can fix anything. That's fine work. Ezra accepted the shirt, running his thumb over the repair. Thank you. There's more, Clara said eagerly. A whole pile. Mama was up before the roosters. Clara, June warned. It's true, she said we have to earn our keep. She said, that's enough, little magpie. June finally faced him, flour dusting her cheeks. Breakfast is ready. They ate together, the children gradually losing their wariness. Boone chattered about horses while Clara observed everything with those two knowing eyes children develop when they've seen too much too young. Can we really see the baby horse? Boone asked. After your chores, June said. We don't have any chores yet, Mama. Ezra pushed back his plate. Well, that's a problem we'd better fix. Tom. The foreman appeared in the doorway. Boss, these young ones need work. Think you can find something suitable? Tom's weathered face cracked into a grin. Reckon I can... You two ever collected eggs? As the children followed Tom outside, June began clearing the table. You don't have to do that, Ezra said. What should I do instead? Sit idle while you work your land? She carried the plates to the wash basin. I may have been bought, Mr. Langley, but I won't be kept like some decorative bird. That's not what He stopped, frustrated. What would make you comfortable here? June paused in her washing. Honestly, purpose. I ran a household once. I can do it again. Then run this one. She turned, surprised. Just like that. Just like that. Cookie's getting old anyway. He'll be glad to have help. Make whatever changes you see fit. Within reason, he added quickly. And in exchange? In exchange, you keep house, cook, whatever you did before. He hesitated. That's all I expect. June dried her hands slowly. Most men would expect more from a woman they bought. I'm not most men. No, she agreed quietly. You're not. The moment stretched between them until the door burst open, Boone tumbling in with Tom behind him. Mama, the baby horse licked my hand, his tongue was so rough. The spell broke. June smiled, the first real smile Ezra had seen from her. It transformed her face, revealing the woman she must have been before grief and hardship carved lines around her eyes. Did you thank Mr. Langley for letting you visit? Thank you, Mr. Langley. Boone launched himself at Ezra's legs, hugging him briefly before darting back to his mother. Ezra stood frozen, unable to remember the last time anyone had embraced him, even a child. Boone, June said gently. We don't? It's fine. Ezra cleared his throat. He's fine. I have work in the barn. He fled, aware he was retreating from a 5-year-old's affection but unable to help himself. The day passed in familiar rhythms. Ezra worked alongside his men, mending fences and checking cattle, but his attention kept drifting to the house. Smoke rose steadily from the chimney. Washing appeared on the line. Once, he heard Clara singing. She's settling in, Tom observed. Seems so. The men are curious about her. They can stay curious. Tom spat tobacco juice. Fair enough, but boss, that Wade Carroll's been asking around town about your purchase. Ezra's hand stilled on the rope he was coiling. Has he now? Might be trouble coming. Might be. Ezra resumed his work. Double the watch tonight, quietly. As afternoon wore into evening, a rider appeared on the horizon. Ezra was already walking toward the house when the man reached the gate, recognizing trouble in the set of his shoulders. June emerged on the porch, wiping her hands on her apron. Her face went pale. Afternoon. The rider called. He was young, maybe 20, with the kind of good looks that fooled people into thinking he was harmless. Looking for my sister. No sisters here, Ezra said evenly. Sure about that? The man's eyes fixed on June. Hey there, Junebug. Wade's mighty upset you ran off. I didn't run anywhere. Billy. June said, I was sold. Legal and proper. Well, now, that's the thing. Wade says different. Says you owed him. Says that debt didn't get cleared by any auction. Ezra stepped between them. The lady's accounts are settled. You'd best move along. Billy grinned, but his hand drifted to his gun. Don't think I will. See, Wade sent me to collect what's his. The woman, the brats. Even that nice little steak her husband left. Course, she probably didn't mention that part when she was batting those pretty eyes at you. Billy Carroll, you lying snake! June hissed. Samuel didn't leave anything but debts, thanks to your brother's crooked cards. That's a harsh accusation? Billy's grin widened. Wade might take offense, might have to come explain things personal-like. He's welcome to try, Ezra said quietly. Something in his tone made Billy's smile falter. You threatening Wade Carroll? Statement of fact. Your brother sets foot on my land. I'll consider it trespass. I deal with trespassers harshly. A big talk for one man. Who says I'm one man? As if on cue. Tom emerged from the barn, rifle casual in his arms. 2 more hands appeared near the corral. Another stepped out of the bunkhouse. Billy's Adam's apple bobbed. This ain't over. It is as far as I'm concerned. Give Wade my regards. Tell him to find his entertainment elsewhere. Billy wheeled his horse around, but couldn't resist a parting shot. You'll regret this, Langley. And June Wade says to tell you he's keeping your mama's locket safe. Case you want to come home for it. June made a sound like she'd been punched. Ezra caught her elbow as she swayed. They watched Billy disappear into the dusk. Only when he was gone did June speak. I should have told you. About Wade. About the debt. Doesn't matter. It does. He won't stop. He's not a man who likes losing. Neither am I. Ezra released her arm. What's this about a locket? It was my mother's, the only thing I had left of her. June's voice broke. Wade took it as collateral, said I could have it back when I came to my senses. From the doorway, Clara called, "Mama, is the bad man gone?" "Yes, sweetheart, he's gone." But they both knew it wasn't true. Not really. Men like Wade Carroll were never truly gone. They just retreated to plan their next attack. That night, Ezra didn't go to the bunkhouse. He sat in the kitchen, rifle across his knees, listening to the night sounds. June found him there near midnight. "You should sleep," she said. "So should you." She sat across from him, the table between them like always. "Why are you doing this, really?" Ezra was quiet for a long moment. "My sister," he finally said. "She married a man like Wade. I was too young to stop it, too weak to help when it mattered. By the time I was old enough," he shrugged. "Too late." "What happened to her?" "What happens to most women who marry cruel men? She endured until she couldn't anymore." June reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. "I'm sorry." "It was a long time ago. Not so long that you'd spend $500 on a stranger." He turned his hand palm up, letting their fingers intertwine briefly before pulling away. "You should rest. Tomorrow will come early." June rose, but paused at the doorway. "Ezra, what I whispered at the auction, it wasn't about Wade. Not entirely." He waited. "I told you we weren't worth saving, that you were wasting your money on damaged goods." "June." "I was wrong." She disappeared into the darkness of the hallway, leaving Ezra alone with his rifle and his thoughts. Outside, a coyote howled closer than the night before. The sound raised the hair on Ezra's neck. Change was coming to the Langley Ranch, whether in the form of Wade Carroll or something else entirely. He checked the rifle's load and settled in to wait for dawn. The morning after Billy's visit, June stood at the kitchen window watching Clara teach Boone to rope a fence post. The boy's throws went wild, but his laughter rang pure across the yard. For a moment, she could almost pretend they were just a normal family on a normal ranch. "They're adjusting well," Ezra's voice came from behind her. She didn't turn. "Children are resilient. They have to be." "What about their mother?" Now she faced him. Dark circles shadowed his eyes he'd kept watch all night. "I need to tell you the truth. All of it." "June." "Please." She gripped the back of a chair. "You're risking everything for strangers. You deserve to know why." Ezra poured himself coffee, then one for her. "All right." June wrapped her hands around the warm cup. Samuel was a good man, but he had one weakness: cards. Wade Carroll knew it, encouraged it, extended credit when Sam couldn't cover his bets. She took a shaky breath. The night Sam died, he owed Wade nearly $800. Wade came to collect the next morning, before Sam's body was even cold. The land. Worthless. Alkali soil. No water rights. Wade knew it when he let Sam stake it. Her knuckles whitened on the cup. He wanted something else as payment. Ezra's jaw tightened. "You." He said I could work off the debt. In his house. Made it sound respectable cooking. Cleaning. But his men's laughter told a different story. June set down her cup carefully. "When I refused, he locked us in the root cellar. 3 days. No food. Little water. Clara stopped crying after the first day. Boone just held his wooden horse and stared at nothing." "Jesus Christ." "On the 4th day, I agreed." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "But Wade said I'd taken too long to decide. The price had gone up. Now he wanted a public show of submission. The auction. Said if no one else bid, he'd have won me fair and square. Make it all legal. That's why you were so calm on that platform. You knew he'd arranged it. I knew no one would dare bid against him. Wade Carroll owns half the valley. Has the other half too scared to breathe wrong." She met his eyes. "Then you walked up those steps like God's own vengeance, and I thought maybe I was trading one devil for another. Is that what you think now?" "No." June reached across the space between them, touching his sleeve. Now I think you might be the most decent man I've ever met, which terrifies me more than Wade Carroll ever did. Why? Because I can survive cruelty. I've had practice, but kindness. She pulled her hand back. Kindness makes you hope, and hope is dangerous for women like me. Before Ezra could respond, Tom burst through the door. Boss, we got company. Lots of it. They rushed to the porch. A dust cloud on the horizon resolved into riders 6, maybe 7 men. Wade Carroll rode at their center, his black hat distinctive even at a distance. Clara Boone, June called sharply. Inside, now. The children ran for the house. Clara's face had gone white, but she grabbed her brother's hand, pulling him along. Mama, Boone's voice quavered. Remember what we practiced? June knelt before them. If I tell you to run, you go to the hiding spot. Don't come out until Mr. Langley or I come for you. But Mama, promise me. Both children nodded solemnly. June kissed their foreheads, then sent them inside. You've done this before, Ezra observed. Too many times. June checked the load in a rifle she'd claimed from the wall. Wade likes his dramatics. The riders stopped just outside rifle range. Wade Carroll dismounted with theatrical flair, his men spreading out in a semicircle behind him. Langley, Wade's voice carried clearly. Let's discuss this like civilized men. We can talk fine from here, Ezra called back. Wade laughed. No, that's not neighborly. I came all this way to collect my property. Least you can do is hear me out face to face. The lady isn't property. That's where you're wrong. Wade pulled a sheaf of papers from his coat. Got the documents right here, signed by her late husband. $800, plus interest, plus penalties for late payment. Comes to... He made a show of calculating. Just over $1,200 now. I paid $500 at the auction. For the right to bid? Sure, but that don't clear her debt to me. Wade's smile was all teeth. Now, I'm a reasonable man. Give me the woman and the brats, and we'll call it square. You can keep your $500 worth of pride. Tom and 3 other hands had taken positions around the yard, rifles visible but not quite aimed. The tension stretched taut as wire. Here's my counteroffer. Ezra said, you turn around, ride off my land, and forget June Hawthorne exists. Do that, and I won't have to explain to the sheriff how you tried to enforce an illegal debt through kidnapping. Wade's face darkened. You threatening me? A statement of fact. Ask your brother. My brother says you pulled iron on him. That's assault. Your brother reached for his weapon first. My men witnessed it. Your men? Wade spat. Bought loyalty ain't worth spit when lead starts flying. One of Wade's riders shifted nervously. Another whispered something urgent. Wade silenced him with a gesture. Tell you what, Langley, let's make this interesting. Wade's smile returned. The woman clearly has you twisted around her finger. So let's see how much she's worth to you. Sunset tomorrow. Bring $1,200 to Cutter's Creek. We'll make a clean exchange, legal-like. And if I don't, then things get unpleasant, for everyone. Wade's eyes flicked to the house. Be a shame if something happened to this nice spread. Fire's a terrible thing this time of year, all this dry grass. Ezra stepped forward, and June caught his arm. Don't, she murmured. He's trying to provoke you. If you shoot him now, his men will swear you murdered him in cold blood. Wade heard her. Smart woman. Always were too smart for your own good. June bug. His voice hardened. One way or another, you're coming back with me. Question is, how many people bleed first? Mr. Carroll. June called out, stepping beside Ezra. What happened to Christian charity? You sat in church beside Samuel. You sang hymns at his funeral. Christian charity don't extend to debts. Woman. Bible's real clear on that. The Bible's also clear on usury and bearing false witness. June's voice carried steady and strong. How much did you really loan my husband? Not 800. Not even half that. You calling me a liar? I'm calling you what you are. A cheat who preys on desperate men. Who fixes games and inflates debts and... Enough! Wade's hand dropped to his gun. Every rifle in the yard swung toward him. The metallic clicks of hammers cocking echoed like crickets. Easy, Ezra said quietly. Nobody needs to die today. Wade's men had gone pale, outnumbered and outpositioned. They knew how this would end if shooting started. This ain't over, Wade snarled. Not by half. He jabbed a finger at June. You think you're safe here. You think one man can protect you from what's coming. I got friends. Woman. Lots of friends who owe me favors. Then bring them, Ezra said. Bring them all. See how many want to die for your pride. Wade mounted his horse with sharp, angry movements. Sunset tomorrow. Cutter's Creek. You don't show with my money. We'll burn this place to the ground with everyone in it. They watched the riders disappear into the dust. Only when they were gone did June sag against the porch rail. $1,200, she said faintly. My God, where would we even... I have it. Ezra's voice was calm. Question is whether paying would solve anything. Tom approached, rifle still in hand. Boss, Wade Carroll don't honor deals. You pay him. He'll just find another reason to come back. I know. Ezra rubbed his jaw. June, tell me about these friends he mentioned. The Riddle Creek gang, mostly. Rustlers and worse. Wade feeds them information about shipments, lone travelers. They share the profits. June shivered. He threatened once to give me to them if I didn't cooperate. Riddle Creek. Tom whistled low. That's bad news, boss. Mark Riddle don't mess around. Neither do I. Ezra turned to June. Take the children to town tonight. Stay at the hotel. I'll handle this. No. The word hung between them like a challenge. This isn't your fight, June continued. I won't have blood on my conscience. Not yours. Not anyone's. Too late for that. Ezra gestured to his men. We're all in it now. Then uninvolve them. Let me go back. I'll survive. I always have. What about your children? June's composure cracked. Wade wouldn't hurt them. They're valuable to him. Leverage. You think growing up in that house won't hurt them, watching their mother degraded daily? Ezra shook his head. No. We make our stand here. We. June's eyes shimmered. There is no we, Mr. Langley. You bought 3 strangers at an auction. That doesn't make us family, doesn't make us anything. Doesn't it? Ezra stepped closer. Your son hugged me yesterday like I was his father. Your daughter asked if she could call me Uncle Ezra. And you look at me sometimes like you're drowning and I'm the only solid ground for miles. Stop. Why? Because it's true. Because you're starting to feel safe here. His voice gentled. That's not weakness. June, that's human. She turned away, but not before he saw tears streak her cheeks. You don't understand. Everyone I care about dies or leaves. I won't watch it happen again. Then help me prevent it. Ezra touched her shoulder carefully. Wade's coming regardless. We can face him together or apart, which gives us better odds. June leaned into his touch for just a moment. Then she straightened, steel returning to her spine. Together, then. But we do this smart. No heroics. Agreed. Ezra called out. Tom, send word to the neighboring ranches. Tell them Wade Carroll threatened to burn us out. See who's willing to stand with us. On it, boss. As Tom hurried off, Clara appeared in the doorway. Mama, are the bad men coming back? June forced a smile. Not today, little love. Come help me with dinner. But as she passed Ezra, June whispered, Sunset tomorrow. Whatever happens, promise me save the children first. I promise, but June, he caught her hand. I plan to save all of you, whether you think you deserve it or not. She squeezed his fingers once. then disappeared inside. Ezra stood alone on the porch, watching the sun sink toward the horizon. Tomorrow would bring violence. He could feel it gathering like a storm. But for tonight, there was a woman cooking in his kitchen, children playing in his yard, and something almost like family taking root in soil he'd thought too hard for growing anything but cattle and regret. Wade Carroll could bring his threats and his gang. Ezra Langley had found something worth fighting for, and he'd be damned if he'd let it go without bleeding for every inch. The moon hung like a silver dollar over the Langley ranch as Ezra finished loading the last rifle. Every window glowed with lamplight. June's idea, to make the house look fully occupied while she and the children sheltered elsewhere. "This is madness," she said from the doorway of the line shack where they'd taken refuge, a half-mile from the main house, hidden in a grove of cottonwoods. It offered protection and clear sightlines. "Probably," Ezra agreed, checking his ammunition. "Tom, you clear on the plan?" "Clear as day, boss. First sign of riders. I fire the warning shot. Jake and Ben take the east ridge. Miguel covers the barn. And remember, we're not looking to kill anyone. Just convince them the price is too high." June emerged from the shack, leaving Clara to watch over a sleeping Boone. "They'll use fire. Wade wasn't bluffing about that." "I know." Ezra had soaked the ground around the house and barn, but against determined arsonists, it might not be enough. "That's why we need to stop them before they get close." A coyote howled in the distance, except it wasn't a coyote. Tom's head snapped up. "That's Miguel. They're coming." "How many?" "3 howls, so 15 riders, maybe more." Ezra cursed under his breath. He'd hoped Wade would bring 5 or 6 men, not a small army. "Get to your positions. June, back inside with the children." "I'm not hiding while you—" "Please." He caught her shoulders. "If something happens to me, they'll need you." "Nothing's going to happen to you," she said fiercely. "June. No, you don't get to die for us. That's not how this ends." She pulled a shotgun from behind the door. "Clara knows to bar the door if things go bad, but they won't, because we're going to win." There was no time to argue. Hoofbeats drummed in the distance, growing louder. Ezra sprinted for the house, June close behind. They'd barely reached the porch when riders erupted from the darkness. Wade Carroll led them, no longer pretending at civility. "Langley, last chance. Send out the woman, or we burn it all." "The only thing burning tonight is your reputation," Carroll, Ezra called back. "Turn around while you still can." Wade laughed. "You think you can take all of us, you and what 4 ranch hands?" 5, Tom corrected from the barn loft. "And we got the high ground. And the sheriff's on his way." Ezra added, "Telegraph went out 2 hours ago. How long you figure before he arrives with a posse?" That was a lie. The nearest sheriff was a day's ride away, but doubt flickered across some faces. "You're bluffing." Wade dismounted, his men following suit. "Besides, accidents happen. Ranch fires are common this time of year. Real tragedy when whole families get caught in them." "That's enough talk." A new voice cut through the night. Mark Riddle emerged from the shadows, flanked by more riders. The rustler king himself, scarred, dangerous, and smiling like a wolf. "Wade here says you got something belongs to him. Langley." Ezra's blood ran cold. 20 men at least, all armed, all killers. "Since when do you run errands?" Riddle. "Since Wade offered me a cut of your cattle after we're done here." Riddle's pale eyes found June. "Plus other considerations. Been a while since the boys had entertainment." June raised her shotgun. "First man who tries loses his head." "Feisty." Riddle's smile widened. "I like that. Makes it more fun." "Enough." Ezra stepped forward. "You want the cattle, take them. But the woman and children stay." "No deal." Wade spat tobacco juice. "This is about respect. About teaching folks what happens when they cross Wade Carroll." "Then you'd better start the lesson." Tom called out, "Because dawn's coming whether you jaw all night or not." Wade's hand dropped to his gun. "Boy, you just signed your—" The night exploded. Tom's rifle cracked, sending Wade's hat spinning. Return fire erupted from the riders, muzzle flashes lighting the darkness like deadly fireflies. "The barn!" someone shouted. "They're in the barn!" Half the riders wheeled toward the structure, firing wildly. Jake and Ben opened up from the ridge, catching them in a crossfire. Men cursed and dove for cover. Ezra pulled June behind the water trough as bullets chewed splinters from the porch posts. So much for not killing anyone. "Wade started it," she said, then rose and fired. A rider cried out, clutching his shoulder. The battle raged in chaos. Smoke and gunpowder filled the air. A torch sailed through the darkness, landing on the porch. June darted out, kicking it into the dirt before diving back as bullets whined overhead. "The house!" Wade screamed. "Burn the damn house!" More torches appeared. Ezra picked off 2 throwers, but a third got close enough to fling fire onto the roof. The wet shingles hissed but didn't catch yet. Then Miguel screamed. Ezra looked up to see the vaquero fall from his position, blood dark on his shirt. "Miguel's down." "I'll go." June started to rise, but Ezra pulled her back as bullets sparked off the trough. "They'll cut you down before you take 3 steps. A new sound cut through the gunfire, Boone's terrified wail from the line shack. June went rigid. "The children." 3 riders had broken off from the main group, heading for the Cottonwood Grove, whether by accident or design. They'd found the hiding spot. "Go," Ezra said. "I'll cover you." June ran like a deer. Shotgun clutched tight. Ezra rose, firing steadily, trying to draw attention from her fleeing form. A bullet tugged at his sleeve. Another sparked off the trough inches from his head. "There," Riddle pointed. "The woman's running, get her." 2 riders spurred after June. Ezra dropped one, but the other kept going. In the grove, guns barked. Clara screamed high and terrified. "No!" The word tore from Ezra's throat. He vaulted the trough, charging toward the trees. A bullet caught him in the side, spinning him around. He stayed on his feet, firing as he ran. June's shotgun boomed once, twice. A rider toppled from his saddle. But more were coming. Too many. Then Tom's rifle spoke from a new position. Jake and Ben had shifted, pouring fire into the rider's flank. The charge faltered. Ezra reached the grove to find June standing over a dead man, blood on her dress, shotgun smoking. Behind her, Clara stood in the shack doorway, clutching a kitchen knife, Boone hidden behind her skirts. "Are you hit?" Ezra gasped, pressing a hand to his bleeding side. "His blood, not mine." June's voice shook. Clara stabbed him when he tried to come through the door." The little girl still held the knife, her face pale as moonlight. "He was going to hurt Boone." "You did right," Ezra told her. "You protected your brother. That's what family does." Gunfire crackled from the ranch. Wade's voice rose in fury. "Fall back, regroup at the rise." "They're pulling back," June breathed. Not for long. Ezra swayed, his side on fire. "They'll try again. Wade's too deep in this to quit now." June saw the blood soaking his shirt. "My God, you're shot!" Had worse, but his legs chose that moment to buckle. June caught him, easing him to the ground. "Clara, bring the medical supplies. Quickly." As Clara ran for the shack, Ezra caught June's hand. "If they come back, they won't get past me." She pressed her palm to his wound, stemming the flow. "I told you, nobody dies tonight." From the direction of the ranch came a new sound: horses. Many horses. Wade's reinforcements, or... "Boss," Tom's voice carried clear. "Riders coming in under a white flag." June helped Ezra sit up against a tree. In the moonlight, they could see a lone rider approaching the house, something pale fluttering from his rifle barrel. It was Mark Riddle himself. "Langley," the outlaw called. "Are you listening?" "Talk!" Ezra managed to shout back. "Wade's losing his nerve. Half my boys are down or bleeding. This ain't worth the cattle he promised." Riddle paused. "You fought well. The woman, too. Tell you what, we ride away now. No more bloodshed. Wade wants to continue his feud. That's between you and him. And in exchange, nothing. We leave. You leave us be. Clean slate." Wade's outraged voice rose from somewhere in the darkness. "Riddle, you backstabbing." "Shut it, Carol. You said this would be easy pickings. You lied." Riddle raised his voice again. "What say you, Langley?" Ezra looked at June. She nodded slightly. "Ride on, Riddle. But if I see any of your men on my land again—" "You won't." The outlaw wheeled his horse. "Boys, we're done here." Confused shouts and curses filled the night as the rustlers withdrew. Wade's voice rose highest, threatening and pleading by turns, but the thunder of departing hooves drowned him out. Pa Boone burst from the shack, tears streaming. "Pa hurt." "I'm not your—" Ezra started, then stopped. The boy flung himself at Ezra's chest, small arms wrapping tight. "Don't die," Boone sobbed. "Please don't die like my real PA." Something broke inside Ezra's chest that had nothing to do with the bullet. "I'm not dying, son. Just need some patching up." Clara returned with supplies, her hands steady as she helped her mother clean and bind the wound. The bleeding had mostly stopped. The bullet had passed through the meat of his side without hitting anything vital. As June worked, Tom approached through the trees. "Boss, they're gone. All but Wade and maybe 2 others. Want us to run them down?" "No, let him slink away. He's finished in this valley." Ezra winced as June tightened the bandage. "How's Miguel?" "Took one in the shoulder, but he'll live. Jake caught a graze. We got lucky." "Not luck," June said quietly. "These men fought for strangers. That's not luck, that's character." Tom ducked his head, embarrassed. "Ma'am, with respect, you ain't strangers no more." As dawn painted the sky pink and gold, they made their way back to the house. Smoke damage blackened one corner of the porch. Bullet holes pocked the walls, but it stood solid and whole. "Home," Clara said simply. "Yes," Ezra agreed, leaning on June as they climbed the steps. "Home." They found Wade's hat in the dirt, a bullet hole clean through the crown. June picked it up, studied it, then sailed it into the yard where the chickens could nest in it. "Done with?" Ezra asked. "Done with." She helped him to a chair, then surprised him by kissing his forehead. "Thank you for everything." "June." "Shh, rest now. We'll talk later. About everything." She looked around the bullet-scarred kitchen, at her children already exploring the damage with resilient curiosity, at the men who'd bled for them. "For now, let's just be grateful we're alive." As the sun climbed higher, painting away the shadows of night, the Langley ranch settled into a new rhythm, wounded but whole, tested but unbroken. And in the kitchen, while June made coffee and Clara helped Boone wash his face, Ezra Langley closed his eyes and let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, he'd finally found something worth the pain of hoping for. The aftermath of battle hung over the ranch like morning mist. Blood darkened the earth where men had fallen. Spent brass casings glinted in the sunrise. The acrid smell of gunpowder still clung to everything. Ezra sat on the porch, fresh bandages tied around his ribs, watching June and Clara tend to the wounded. Miguel lay on a makeshift cot, his shoulder wrapped, an arm in a sling, joking weakly with Boone about his aim. 7 men, Tom reported, standing beside Ezra. "That's how many Riddle lost. 3 dead, 4 wounded bad enough they had to be carried off." "And Wade?" "No sign since they scattered. But boss—" Tom hesitated. "This ain't over. Men like Wade Carroll don't forgive being humiliated." "I know." Ezra shifted, wincing at the pull in his side. "Double the watch, and send word to the other ranchers about what happened here. They need to know Wade's getting desperate." As Tom headed off, June approached with a cup of coffee. "You should be resting." "So should you." He accepted the cup gratefully. "How's Clara?" June's face clouded. "Quiet. She hasn't spoken about what she did." "She saved her brother's life." "She's 7 years old. Ezra, 7-year-olds shouldn't know how to—" June's voice caught. "This is my fault. The life I've given them. The life you fought for." Ezra caught her hand. "Don't you dare blame yourself for surviving." Before June could respond, hoofbeats sounded in the distance. Everyone tensed, hands drifting to weapons. But it was only a single rider approaching under the brightening sky. The man who dismounted at the gate was nobody Ezra recognized, tall and lean, with the weathered look of someone who'd spent years under hard suns. But June went rigid beside him. "Matthew," she breathed. The stranger removed his hat, revealing sandy hair shot through with premature gray. "Hello, June. Been a while." "You know him?" Ezra asked, not liking the way June had paled. "My brother." June's voice was flat. "Half-brother. I haven't seen him in 5 years, 6. 7. Matthew's eyes swept the bullet-riddled ranch. "Heard there was trouble up this way. Wade Carroll causing problems." His gaze settled on Ezra. "You'd be Langley." "I would, and you'd be the brother who disappeared when June needed family most." Matthew's jaw tightened. "That's between June and me." "Not anymore." Ezra stood despite the pain. "You're on my land. That makes it my business." "Ezra, please!" June stepped between them. "Matthew, why are you here?" "Got word you were in trouble. Again." Matthew's eyes found Clara and Boone peering from the doorway. "They've grown." "Children do that, especially when they're not abandoned." June's voice could have frozen water. "I ask again, why are you here?" Matthew reached into his jacket, and Ezra tensed, but he only pulled out a leather folder. Papers, legal documents, proof that Samuel's debt to Wade was paid in full before he died. June snatched the papers, scanning them with growing disbelief. This is Samuel's signature, and the bank seal, but how—" "I paid it." Matthew's voice was quiet. 3 months ago, soon as I heard Samuel passed. Wade's been collecting on a cleared debt. You paid $800. $863, with interest. Matthew shrugged. Cattle drive to Kansas paid well last year. June's hands shook. All this time, Wade knew the debt was cleared. Probably. Man like that doesn't care about legal niceties when there's profit to be made. "Why didn't you tell me?" June's voice rose. "Do you know what we've been through? What he put us through?" "I sent word to the bank. They were supposed to notify you." Matthew's expression hardened. "Guess Wade intercepted it." Ezra took the papers, studying them carefully. Everything looked legitimate: stamps, signatures, dates. "This changes things. With these, we can have Wade arrested for fraud, attempted kidnapping, maybe even murder, given last night." "Won't stick," Matthew said. "Wade owns half the law in these parts, but it might make him back off. Bad for business if word gets out he's been collecting cleared debts." "Matthew?" June's voice had gone deadly soft. "Look at me." Her brother met her gaze reluctantly. 7 years, not a word, not a letter, nothing when Samuel died, nothing when we were put up for auction like livestock. June stepped closer. "And now you appear with papers like that fixes everything." "June." "I mourned you." Her voice cracked. "Clara asked about her uncle for months. I had to tell her you were gone, had to watch her stop asking." June's hand flew up, the slap cracking like a shot. Matthew took it without flinching. "I deserved that." "You deserve more than that." But the fire had gone out of June's voice, leaving only exhaustion. "Why, Matthew, why did you leave?" "Because I was a coward." The words came out flat. Matter of fact. Pa died, left me the ranch, and I couldn't handle it. The responsibility, the memories. So I ran, sold everything, headed west. Told myself I'd send for you once I got settled. But you never did. No, I never did. Matthew met her gaze squarely. By the time I found my spine, years had passed. You'd married Samuel, had children, built a life. What right did I have to disrupt that? The right of family, June said quietly. The obligation of blood. I know. God, June, I know. Matthew's composure finally cracked. When I heard about Samuel, about the auction, I rode for 3 days straight, but I was too late. Again. Clara had crept onto the porch, studying this stranger who shared her mother's eyes. Are you really Mama's brother? Matthew knelt to her level. I am. You probably don't remember me. You were just a baby when... I remember. Clara's voice was solemn beyond her years. You gave me a doll, with yellow yarn hair. I still have her. Matthew's face crumpled. Sunshine Sally, that's what you called her. Still do? Clara looked at her mother. Is he staying? June turned to Ezra, conflict clear in her eyes. Matthew was family complicated, flawed family, but family nonetheless. And after last night, they needed all the allies they could get. Your brother's welcome to water his horse, Ezra said carefully. Beyond that is your decision. June studied Matthew for a long moment. You can stay for breakfast. We'll see about anything else. Relief flickered across Matthew's features. Thank you. As they headed inside, Tom intercepted them. Boss, rider coming in fast from town. Now what, Ezra thought wearily. But the rider wasn't bringing trouble. It was Doc Peterson, medical bag bouncing against his saddle. Heard you had wounded out here. The doctor called, dismounting with surprising agility for a man his age. Why didn't someone fetch me sooner? Didn't want to risk the roads in the dark, Ezra admitted. Fools. All of you. Doc Peterson was already examining Miguel's shoulder. Could have lost this arm to infection, June, hot water, lots of it, and clean cloths. The morning dissolved into controlled chaos. Doc Peterson worked on the wounded while June managed the household, and Matthew made himself useful hauling water and supplies. Clara shadowed the doctor, fascinated by his work, while Boone divided his time between checking on Miguel and staring at his newly returned uncle. She's got steady hands, Doc Peterson commented, letting Clara help with bandages. Might make a nurse someday. Can girls be doctors? Clara asked. Don't see why not. World's changing. Might change that fast by the time you're grown. As the doctor worked, Ezra found himself watching June and Matthew. The siblings moved around each other like wary cats, not quite reconciled but no longer openly hostile. When Matthew rolled up his sleeves to help, Ezra noticed scars on his arms, the kind men got from desperate living. He's had his own troubles, June said quietly, appearing at Ezra's elbow. I can see it in how he moves, how he watches the horizon. Doesn't excuse abandoning you. No, but it might explain it. June sighed. Family's complicated. Speaking of which, Ezra nodded toward Boone, who had climbed into Matthew's lap and was showing him his wooden horse. Your son's quick to trust. Too quick, sometimes, but maybe that's not always bad. June studied Ezra's profile. You were good with them last night. When Boone called you Pa, heat of the moment, he was scared. Maybe, or maybe he sees what I see. June touched his arm. A good man who'd die protecting children that aren't even his. June, Wade will come back. She cut him off. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but eventually. His pride won't let this stand. Then we'll be ready. We, June smiled sadly, still using that word like it means something. Doesn't it? Ezra turned to face her fully. Your brother brought proof the debt's cleared. You're free to leave whenever you want, but you're still here. Where would we go? I have no money, no home. You have a home. The words came out rougher than he intended. Here, if you want it. June went very still. As your housekeeper. As whatever you want to be. Ezra struggled to find the right words. I'm not good at this. Haven't had much practice. But I know I don't want you to leave. Any of you. Ezra Langley. June's eyes shimmered. Are you trying to court me? Maybe. Yes. He straightened despite the pain in his side. If you'll have me. Though I figure a woman who can shoot like you has plenty of options. Oh, dozens, June agreed solemnly. Men line up daily to court widows with 2 children and violent debt collectors chasing them. Their loss, my gain. June laughed the first real laugh he'd heard from her. It transformed her face, revealing the girl she must have been before life hardened her edges. Ask me again, she said. When this is over, when Wade's dealt with and we're not all walking wounded, ask me again when I can answer without wondering if it's gratitude or genuine feeling. Fair enough. Ezra caught her hand, pressing it briefly. But June, I already know my answer. Before she could respond, Matthew appeared in the doorway. Riders approaching! Lots of them! Everyone scrambled for weapons. But Tom called out, Stand down, it's Sheriff Morrison from Colby. With a posse. The sheriff was a hard man in his 50s, face like old leather and eyes that missed nothing. He surveyed the shot-up ranch with professional interest while his men spread out, examining the evidence of battle. Mr. Langley, Morrison touched his hat brim. Heard there was some excitement out this way. You could say that. Also heard Wade Carroll's been making claims about stolen property. Says you're harboring a woman who belongs to him. I have the papers proving that debt was cleared. Matthew interrupted, producing the documents. Wade's been collecting on nothing but threats. Morrison studied the papers carefully. These look legitimate, of course. Wade's saying they're forgeries. Then let's ask the bank, Ezra suggested. Telegraph them. They'll confirm Matthew Carr paid the debt in full. Already did. Morrison's weathered face cracked into what might have been a smile. Answer came back this morning. Debt's clear as day. Relief washed through the group. June sagged against the doorframe. There's more, Morrison continued. Found Wade Carroll about 5 miles north of here. Him and 2 others. Shot up pretty bad. Are they? June asked. Alive. For now. Wade's asking to see you. Mrs. Hawthorne. Says he's got something to say before I haul him in. June looked at Ezra, who nodded. Your choice, but I'll go with you. We'll all go, Matthew said firmly. They found Wade Carroll propped against a wagon wheel, his fancy clothes torn and bloodied. His remaining men sat nearby under guard, looking thoroughly defeated. When he saw June, something flickered in his eyes, not the usual cruelty, but something almost like regret. June! His voice came out as a rasp. Got something. Something needs saying. Then say it. June's voice was stone. The locket. Wade fumbled at his chest with shaking hands. Your mother's locket. Said I'd keep it safe. He pulled out a small gold locket on a delicate chain. June gasped, her hand flying to her throat. Take it. Wade held it out. Should have given it back long ago. Should have done a lot of things different. June took the locket with trembling fingers. Inside was a tiny portrait, a woman who looked like an older version of June, smiling with eternal patience. Why? June whispered. Why all of this? The debt was cleared. You knew it was cleared. Pride. Wade coughed, specks of blood on his lips. Couldn't stand losing. Not the money, not you, especially not to him. He glared weakly at Ezra. Man like Langley thinks he's better than everyone. He is better, June said quietly. Better than you ever were? Wade closed his eyes. Yeah, reckon so. He was quiet so long they thought he'd passed out. Then, tell the boy. Tell Boone I'm sorry about his PA. The cards weren't marked that night. Samuel just had terrible luck. I'll tell him. Morrison stepped forward. "All right, that's enough. Get these men to the doctor. Wade Carroll, you're under arrest for fraud, attempted kidnapping, and about a dozen other charges I'll think of by the time we reach town." As they loaded the wounded outlaws onto a wagon, Wade caught June's sleeve. "One more thing. Riddle won't forget last night. Lost too many men. He'll want payment eventually." "Let him come," Ezra said. Wade actually laughed a broken sound. "You really think you can protect them from Riddle? From men like me, there'll always be another threat. Langley, another debt, another claim. That's how the world works." "Maybe, but they'll face them with family, with people who'll bleed for them." Ezra put his arm around June's shoulders. "That makes all the difference." Wade stared at them, the woman he'd tried to own, the man who'd stopped him, the children peering from behind June's skirts. Something shifted in his face, the last of his arrogance crumbling. "Family," he repeated, like he was tasting a foreign word. Then the sheriff's men hauled him away, and Wade Carroll disappeared from their lives as suddenly as he'd poisoned them. As the posse departed in a cloud of dust, June opened the locket again, studying her mother's face. "She would have liked you," she told Ezra. "She always said the measure of a man was how he treated those who couldn't fight back." "Smart woman." "She was." June closed the locket, fastening it around her neck where it belonged. "Thank you for everything." "Thank your brother. He's the one who brought the papers." They looked over to where Matthew was teaching Boone to throw a lasso, Clara offering critical commentary. The sight was so normal, so peaceful after the violence of recent days, that it seemed almost unreal. "We're really free," June murmured. "After everything, we're actually free." "Free to stay or go," Ezra agreed. "Choice is yours." June turned in his arms, studying his face. "You know, Mr. Langley, I don't think I ever told you what I really whispered that day at the auction." "You said—" "I know what I told you I said." She smiled. "But that wasn't it. What I really said was, this one's different. This one might save us all." "June." "I was right." She rose on her toes, pressing a kiss to his cheek. "You did save us, in more ways than one." As she walked back to the house, calling for the children to wash for dinner, Ezra touched the spot where her lips had been. The sun was climbing toward noon, painting the ranch in shades of gold and possibility. Tom appeared at his elbow. "Orders, boss. Get the men fed, then start repairs on the house. And Tom, tell Cookie he's got help now. Permanent help." Tom grinned. "Yes, sir. About time this place had a woman's touch again." As Ezra headed for the house, he could hear June singing in the kitchen something about green valleys and clear streams. Clara's voice joined in, high and sweet. Even Boone attempted to carry the tune. Wade Carroll had been wrong. The world didn't always work on threats and debts and violence. Sometimes rarely, but sometimes it offered second chances, new beginnings, the possibility of love growing in ground once thought too hard for anything gentle. The door stood open, spilling light and music and the smell of fresh bread into the yard. Ezra paused on the threshold, watching the scene within June at the stove, Matthew setting the table, children underfoot and laughter rising like smoke. Home, he thought. After all these years alone, he'd finally found his way home. He stepped inside, letting the door close behind him, and joined his family for the noon meal. 3 weeks passed in relative peace. The ranch settled into new rhythms, June singing in the kitchen, Clara helping with the chickens, Boone trailing after the ranch hands like a devoted shadow. Matthew had stayed on, bunking with the men and slowly earning back his sister's trust through quiet work and patience. Ezra was checking the fence line when he heard the shot. It cracked through the still afternoon air, sending birds exploding from the cottonwoods. Then silence, the kind that made smart men reach for their guns. "That came from the house," Tom said, already spurring his horse. They rode hard. Ezra's mind racing through possibilities. June had been alone except for the children, Matthew having gone to town for supplies. As they crested the rise, Ezra saw her on the porch, rifle still smoking, staring down at something in the yard. A man lay face down in the dirt, unmoving. June! Ezra swung from his saddle before it fully stopped. Are you hurt? She shook her head, but her face was pale as parchment. He came through the window, had a knife. The children were napping, and I was mending, and suddenly he was just there. Ezra knelt by the body, turning it over. The man was young, maybe 25, with the hard look of someone who'd made his living taking what wasn't his. A tattoo on his wrist caught Ezra's eye, a broken wheel, the mark of the Riddle Creek gang. Where are Clara and Boone? Inside, safe. I made them hide in the root cellar when I heard horses. June's hands trembled as she lowered the rifle. He said Riddle sent him, said this was just the beginning. Tom whistled low. Boss, if Riddle's sending scouts... I know. Ezra stood, pulling June against him. She was shaking now, the aftermath of violence hitting her. You did what you had to do. I've never killed anyone before. Her voice was muffled against his shirt. Even during the fight with Wade, I only wounded, but he was so close to the stairs, so close to the children. Shh, you protected your family. Nothing else matters. They buried the would-be assassin in the hard ground beyond the ranch boundary. No word said over the grave. Some men didn't deserve prayers, but Ezra kept the man's effects, including a letter that made his blood run cold. 20 men, he told the gathered hands that evening. Riddle's assembling 20 men for a raid. According to this, they plan to hit us at the new moon. That's 4 days from now. 20 trained killers against our 8. Tom calculated grimly. Not good odds. Then we need more men. Matthew spoke from the doorway, having returned from town with troubling news of his own. Sheriff Morrison's been called away to Dodge. Won't be back for a week. Convenient timing. Riddle probably arranged it. Ezra studied the letter again. But there's something else. This mentions collecting the woman and children for transport. They're not planning to kill June and the kids. Worse than killing, June said quietly. Everyone turned to her. There are places across the border, places where women and children disappear. Riddle has connections there. The implications hung heavy in the room. Ezra's jaw tightened. Over my dead body. That's likely the plan, boss, Tom said. Then we need help, real help. Ezra made a decision. Tom, ride to the Barton Ranch. Tell Jim what's happening. Matthew, try the Hendersons and the Coopers. Tell them Riddle's threatening the whole valley, not just us. They might not come, Matthew warned. Not everyone's willing to stand against Riddle. Then we need something more than asking. June stood, her chin raised. Tell them June Hawthorne is calling in debts. Sarah Barton, I nursed her through childbed fever. Louise Henderson, I taught her girls their letters when the school closed. Martha Cooper, I helped her put up preserves for 3 winters running. You think that'll make a difference? Tom asked. I think women have their own kind of power. June replied, and their own kind of debts. As the men prepared to ride out, Clara appeared on the stairs. Mama, is the bad man gone? Yes, sweetheart, he's gone. Will more come? June knelt beside her daughter. Maybe, but we'll be ready. Like before with Mr. Ezra and everyone fighting. Like before. Clara digested this with the solemnity of a child who'd seen too much. I should practice with the knife again. No. June pulled her close. No more knives for you. That's not your job. Then what is? To be a child. To laugh and play and trust the adults to keep you safe. But what if the adults can't? June had no answer for that. The next days passed in tense preparation. Responses to their call for help trickled in, some promising, some not. Jim Barton would come with 3 hands. The Hendersons sent regrets and a wagon load of ammunition. The Coopers were considering. Not enough, Ezra said on the second evening, reviewing their defenses. Even with Barton's men, we're outnumbered 2-1. The house is solid, Matthew offered. Good sight lines, strong walls. We could hold out for a while. Until they burn us out. June stood at the window, watching the sunset paint the sky red as blood. That's what they'll do, pin us down and use fire. Not if we don't give them the chance. Ezra spread out a map of the ranch. What if we didn't wait for them to come to us? Tom leaned in, interested. You mean hit them first? I mean make them come where we want them. Ezra traced a finger along the map. Cougar Canyon, narrow approach, high walls. If we could lure them in there. It could work, Matthew said slowly. But how do we get them to follow riddles too smart to chase blindly into a box canyon? He'll chase if the bait's good enough. Everyone turned to stare at June. If he thinks I'm running, taking the children and fleeing, he'll follow that. Absolutely not, Ezra said. Listen. No, we're not using you as bait. You have a better idea. June's green eyes flashed. Because I'm not seeing many options here. They argued long into the night, voices rising and falling like tide. Clara and Boone huddled together upstairs, listening to the adults debate their fate. Finally, exhausted and no closer to agreement, they separated to snatch what sleep they could. Ezra found June on the porch near midnight, her mother's locket gleaming in the moonlight. Can't sleep either, he asked. Keep thinking about that man, the one I shot. She touched the locket absently. His eyes, they were blue. Someone's son. Maybe someone's brother. Someone who came to steal children, Ezra reminded her. You can't carry guilt for defending your own. Can't I? June turned to him. How many men have you killed, Ezra? Too many. Started when I was 17. Cattle rustlers hit our place. Kept going from there. He settled beside her on the bench. Each one takes a piece of you, but sometimes the alternative takes more. I used to be a school teacher, June said suddenly. Before Samuel, did I ever tell you that? No. Taught in a little schoolhouse in Missouri. 23 students, ages 6 to 16. I loved it. Her voice grew wistful. Thought I'd do it forever. Then Samuel came to town with his easy smile and big dreams, and suddenly I was a rancher's wife in Texas. Do you regret it? I regret not seeing him clearer, not recognizing the weakness under the charm. She sighed. But then I wouldn't have Clara and Boone. So how can I regret it fully? Life's complicated that way. Is it? June shifted to face him. You make it seem simple. See a problem. Fix it. Someone threatens your people. Stop them. You're my people now, Ezra said simply. All of you. That is simple. June studied his face in the moonlight. I'm going to do it. Tomorrow. I'm taking the wagon toward Cougar Canyon, with or without your blessing. June. The children will be safe here with you and the men. I'll make enough dust to be seen, enough noise to draw attention. When Riddle follows, you'll be waiting in the canyon. And if they catch you before you reach the canyon, they won't. Steel entered her voice. I've been running from hard men all my life. Ezra, I know how to stay ahead. Not from 20 of them, not alone. Then come with me. She caught his hand. You and Tom and maybe one other. Enough to fight if needed. Not so many that Riddle smells a trap. Ezra was quiet for a long moment. The plan had merit, much as he hated admitting it. Matthew stays with the children. And the rest of the men? They'll fort up here in case some of Riddle's gang splits off. It's risky. Everything's risky now. June squeezed his fingers. But this gives us a chance. Otherwise, we're just waiting to be slaughtered. A coyote howled in the distance, or maybe it wasn't a coyote. The night sounds had been wrong lately, full of signals and watchers. All right, Ezra said finally. But we do this my way. First sign of real danger. We abandon the plan. Agreed. They sat together as the moon traced its path across the sky. Inside, a floorboard creaked Clara, probably checking on her sleeping brother, the ordinary sounds of home, made precious by the threat hanging over them. Ezra, June's voice was soft. If something happens, nothing's going to happen. But if it does, promise me you'll take care of them. Clara and Boone, raise them right. June, promise me. I promise, but you're going to raise them yourself. We're going to get through this. And you're going to teach Clara to be a school teacher and watch Boone become whatever wild thing he's destined to be. June smiled sadly. From your lips to God's ears. A shooting star streaked across the sky. June closed her eyes, lips moving in what might have been a wish or prayer. When she opened them, Ezra was watching her with an expression that made her breath catch. What? Just thinking you're the strongest woman I've ever known. I'm not strong. I'm terrified. Being strong doesn't mean not feeling fear. It means acting despite it. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. And you've been acting despite fear since I met you. I had to, for them. And now, June leaned into his touch. Now I have more to lose. That makes me more frightened, not less. Good. Fear keeps you sharp, keeps you alive. Ezra stood, pulling her up with him. Get some rest. Tomorrow we bait a trap. As they turned to go inside, a flicker of movement caught Ezra's eye. There along the ridge, a silhouette against the stars, quickly gone. They're watching, June said quietly. Let them. By tomorrow night, they'll have more to worry about than watching. But as they entered the house, Ezra couldn't shake the feeling that they were already in Riddle's trap, not the other way around. The letter found on the dead assassin felt too convenient, the attack too clumsy for a gang that had survived by being smart. What if they were meant to find it? What if Riddle wanted them to know he was coming? Second thoughts, June asked, reading his expression. Always. But we're committed now. June rose on her toes, pressing a swift kiss to his lips. Then we'd better make it count. She disappeared up the stairs, leaving Ezra stunned and wanting. After a moment, he smiled grimly. One more reason to survive tomorrow to see where that kiss might lead. He checked the locks, the weapons, the sight lines from each window. Come dawn, they'd roll the dice on June's plan. But tonight, he'd watch over his family and dare Riddle or anyone else to try taking what was his. The moon set, plunging the ranch into darkness. Somewhere out there, Mark Riddle was planning his own moves in this deadly game. But Ezra Langley had learned long ago that the best players were those with the most to lose and the will to do whatever it took to keep it. Tomorrow would tell who wanted it more. Dawn came pale and cold to Cold Hollow, a stretch of badlands where even the coyotes traveled wary. Ezra stood at the edge of the ravine, studying the approaches while Tom and Jake positioned themselves among the rocks above. Riders coming, Jake called down softly. 3 of them, flying a white flag. Ezra's hand dropped to his Colt. Riddle wanting to parley wasn't part of the plan. June was back at the ranch with Matthew and the others, ready to run her false escape at the first signal. But this could be a trap, Tom muttered, rifle ready. Everything could be a trap. Ezra stepped into the open. Let them come. The 3 riders approached slowly, hands visible. Ezra recognized the lead man Luther Hobbs, Riddle's segundo. Mean as a snake, but smart enough to survive in a business that killed stupid men quick. Langley. Luther reined up just out of easy pistol range. Mister, Riddle wants words with you. So talk. Not me, him, personal-like. Luther's scarred face showed nothing. He's waiting at Devil's Table. You know it. Ezra knew it, a flat-topped mesa half a mile north. Good sight lines in all directions. Hard to ambush. Just him and me. You can bring 2 men. He'll have the same. Luther's smile was sharp as winter. Noon, Don't be late." They wheeled and rode off without waiting for an answer. Tom scrambled down from his position. "Boss, you can't be considering this." "Don't have much choice. If Riddle wants to talk instead of fight, I need to hear what he's saying. And if talking's just his way of getting you in gun range, then you and Jake will make him regret it." Ezra checked the sun. 3 hours until noon. "Get word to the ranch. Tell June to hold off on her run. No sense baiting a trap if the wolf's already offering to walk into the cage." Devil's Table lived up to its name, a slab of red rock thrust up from the desert floor like an altar to some forgotten god. Ezra arrived with Tom and Jake to find Riddle already waiting, Luther and another gunman flanking him. Mark Riddle looked older than his 40-some years, face carved by wind and violence into something hard and ageless. He sat his horse like a king on a throne, pale eyes taking in everything and giving back nothing. "Langley, good of you to come." "You wanted to talk?" "Talk." Riddle dismounted, a gesture somehow both casual and threatening. "Man to man, your boys and mine can watch from a distance." Ezra nodded to Tom, who reluctantly pulled back with Jake. Luther and the other gunman did the same, leaving Riddle and Ezra alone on the mesa's flat top. Smoke Riddle offered a cigar. "No." "Suit yourself." Riddle lit up, taking his time. "You killed one of my boys." "Your boy broke into my house with a knife. What happened to him was justice." "Maybe so, but blood demands blood. That's the way of things." "Is that what you came to say, that you want revenge?" "I came to make you an offer." Riddle blew smoke into the cold air. "The woman, June. She's the problem here, not you." Ezra's jaw tightened. "The woman's under my protection." "I know. That's what makes this complicated." Riddle studied his cigar. "See, I made a deal. Promised certain people I'd deliver her and those children. Gave my word." "Your word to slavers doesn't interest me." "Careful with that tongue, Langley. Men have died for less." But Riddle seemed more amused than angry. "You ever been to Mexico, beautiful country? Man can live like a king down there on American money." "Get to the point." "The point is choice. I can take what I came for the hard way, blood and bullets and burning, or—" Riddle met his eyes. "You can ride away. Tonight, take your men, your cattle, whatever you want. Just leave the woman and children. I'll give you 24 hours before we move in." "You're asking me to abandon them." "I'm offering you life, yours and your men's." Riddle's voice hardened. "This isn't personal. Langley, it's business. The woman's worth $5,000 delivered safe. That kind of money buys a lot of loyalty." "From men like you." "From any man. Don't stand there all righteous. You bought her yourself, didn't you, at an auction like cattle? To save her from Wade Carroll. And look how that turned out. Carroll's in jail or dead. And here I am anyway." Riddle shrugged. "Some folks are just marked for hard fate. Fighting it only spreads the misery around." "That your philosophy, just accept whatever evil comes." "My philosophy is survival. 20 years in this business teaches you things, like when to hold cards and when to fold." Riddle ground out his cigar. "You seem like a smart man. Langley, be smart now." "Let me make you a counteroffer." Ezra said, "Right away. Forget whatever deal you made. There are other ways to earn $5,000 that don't involve selling women and children." Riddle actually laughed. "You got sand. I'll give you that. But no, I gave my word. That still means something, even to men like me." "Then we've got nothing more to discuss." "Sure we do." Riddle's hand drifted near his gun, not quite a threat, but close. "See, I know about your little plan. The woman making a run for Cougar Canyon. You waiting in ambush? Clever. Might even have worked against someone else." Ezra kept his face neutral despite the ice in his gut. "How did Riddle know? That letter you found was real." Riddle continued. "Boy was supposed to scout, not attack. Fool got eager, thought he'd earn extra taking the woman himself. But the rest, the 20 men, the new moon raid, all true." Except now you're here talking instead of raiding. Because I respect you. Langley, what you did to Carol's bunch took guts and skill. Riddle's pale eyes glinted. Be ashamed to kill a man like you over a woman who's nothing to you. That's where you're wrong. She's everything. Something shifted in Riddle's expression, surprise, maybe, or recognition. You love her. It wasn't a question. Ezra didn't answer, but his silence was confirmation enough. Well, hell. Riddle actually looked regretful. That does complicate things. A man in love is unpredictable, dangerous. Then you know I won't back down. I know you'll die trying to protect her. You and how many others? Tom Brennan's got a wife. Jake Palmer's sending money to his sick mother. Your Mexican boy Miguel has a sweetheart in town. They all going to die for your love. They'll die for what's right. Right, Riddle spat. There's no right or wrong out here. Langley, just alive and dead. You're wrong. The fact that you're here talking instead of attacking proves it. Even you have lines you'd rather not cross. Maybe, or maybe I just prefer easy money to hard. Riddle walked to his horse. Offer stands until sunset. After that, he swung into the saddle. After that, God help you all. Riddle. Ezra's voice stopped him. The people who hired you, names. You know I can't tell you that. Worth asking. Riddle studied him for a long moment. Hutchinson. Judge Hutchinson out of Fort Smith. Has a taste for certain things, pays well for discretion. The name hit Ezra like a physical blow. Judge Cornelius Hutchinson, the hanging judge. They called him a man who'd sentenced dozens to death with barely a blink. That he was behind this. Changes things, doesn't it? Riddle observed. Man like that has reach. Even if you stop me, he'll send others. Only way this ends is with the woman delivered or dead, or with Hutchinson exposed for what he is. Good luck with that. Man's got the law itself in his pocket. Riddle touched his hat brim. Sunset, Langley. Choose wise. They rode off in different directions, Riddle and his men north toward their camp, Ezra and his boys racing back to the ranch. Tom exploded with questions as soon as they were out of earshot. How'd he know about the canyon plan? Someone talked, or he's got watchers closer than we thought. Ezra pushed his horse harder. Doesn't matter now. Everything's changed. June met them at the gate, rifle in hand. Well, inside, everyone. They gathered in the main room. June, Matthew, Tom, Jake, Miguel with his arm still in a sling, the other hands crowding in. Even Clara and Boone huddled on the stairs, listening. Ezra laid it all out, Riddle's offer, his knowledge of their plan, and most damning, Judge Hutchinson's involvement. Jesus, Matthew breathed. A federal judge. How do you fight that? No, you don't, Tom said grimly. You run or you die. Or you fight anyway, June said quietly. Everyone turned to her. Isn't that what you told me, Ezra? Sometimes you act despite the fear. This is different. Hutchinson has resources we can't match. Even if we stop Riddle, we deal with today's problem today. June stood, chin raised. I won't run anymore. Won't teach my children that evil men always win just because they have money or power. June. No, you all risked everything for strangers. You think I'll do less for family? Her green eyes blazed. Because that's what you are now. All of you. Family. Miguel shifted, wincing. Senora's right. We run now. We run forever. Rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Jake added. One by one, the others voiced agreement. Even cautious Tom finally nodded. If we're doing this, we do it right. No half measures. Ezra felt something swell in his chest. Pride, fear, love, all tangled together. These people, his people, choosing to stand against impossible odds. All right, he said. Then we make ready. Riddle gave us until sunset. That's 4 hours to... A shot rang out, shattering the window. Everyone dove for cover as more bullets peppered the walls. "They're early," Tom shouted, returning fire from the window. "No," Ezra realized with sick certainty. "Riddle's still talking. This is someone else." Through the gun smoke, he saw them riders wearing badges, a dozen at least, and leading them, tall in the saddle with righteousness written on his face. Sheriff Morrison. "Ezra Langley," Morrison's voice boomed. "By order of Judge Cornelius Hutchinson, you're under arrest for kidnapping, assault, and interference with lawful debt collection." "Since when is Morrison working for Hutchinson?" Tom hissed. "Since money changed hands," Ezra replied bitterly. "Of course. Why send outlaws when you could send the law itself?" "You've got 1 minute to surrender peacefully," Morrison continued. "Release Mrs. Hawthorne and the children, and I guarantee safe passage to jail." "Like hell," June muttered, checking her rifle. "They want us to fight," Matthew realized. "Give them excuse to gun us all down legal-like." 30 seconds. Langley. Ezra's mind raced. Fight the law and brand themselves outlaws forever. Surrender and trust Hutchinson's bought justice. Either way, June and the children would end up in the judge's hands. Unless... "Tom, take June and the kids out the back. Horses are saddled. Make for the Bradley Ranch. Judge Hutchinson's reach doesn't extend to Colorado." "Ezra, no." "This is my land, my fight." He caught June's shoulders. "Take your children and run, please." "Not without you." "Time's up," Morrison shouted. The front door exploded inward. Sheriff's men poured through, guns drawn. Ezra stepped forward, hands raised but ready. "Sheriff Morrison, didn't expect to see you back from Dodge so soon?" "Plans change when federal judges give orders." Morrison's eyes were cold. "Where's the woman?" "Gone. Took the children and lit out an hour ago." "Liar." Morrison nodded to his men. "Search the place." They spread through the house like locusts. Ezra heard Clara whimper upstairs. Boone calling for his mother, his hands clenched into fists. "Found them!" A deputy dragged June down the stairs. Clara and Boone clinging to her skirts. "Hiding in the back bedroom." "June Hawthorne," Morrison announced. "You're under arrest by federal warrant." "For what?" June demanded. "What crime have I committed?" "Theft of property, fleeing lawful debt." Morrison smiled coldly. "Corrupting the morals of minor children." "That's not even a real charge." "It is when Judge Hutchinson says it is." Morrison grabbed June's arm. "Come quietly, and your children won't be harmed." That's when Ezra saw it, the derringer June had hidden in her sleeve, starting to slide into her palm. A hideout gun against a dozen armed men. Suicide. "Wait," Ezra said quickly. "I'll come too, peacefully, just... no one needs to get hurt here." June met his eyes. Slowly, the derringer disappeared back up her sleeve. "Smart choice, Langley." Morrison gestured to his men. "Bring them all. The judge wants to have words." As they were led out, hands bound, Ezra caught sight of riders on the horizon. Riddle's men, watching. The outlaw had kept his word, no attack until after sunset, but he'd never promised not to sick the law on them first. "This isn't over," Tom called as they were loaded into a prison wagon. "No," Morrison agreed. "It's just beginning. Judge Hutchinson has special plans for all of you, especially the woman and her brats." The door slammed shut, plunging them into darkness. Through the bars, Ezra could see his ranch, his men held at gunpoint, everything he'd built about to be swept away. But June's hand found his in the dark, small fingers interlacing with his rough ones. Clara and Boone pressed close, seeking comfort. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Don't be." June's voice was steady. "We're together. That's what matters." The wagon lurched into motion. carrying them toward whatever justice a corrupt judge had planned. But Ezra had survived too much to give up now. Somewhere between here and Fort Smith lay opportunity. He just had to find it. And when he did, Judge Cornelius Hutchinson would learn what happened to men who threatened Ezra Langley's family. The sun was already sinking toward the horizon, painting the sky the color of blood and promises. The prison wagon had barely cleared the ranch gate when the shooting started. The first shot took out the driver, sending him tumbling from his seat. The second killed the guard riding beside him. The wagon veered wildly before crashing into a fence post, throwing everyone inside against the bars. "Down," Ezra shouted, pulling June and the children to the floor as bullets whistled overhead. Through the chaos, he heard Mark Riddle's voice, cold and commanding, "Morrison, this wasn't our deal." The sheriff and his men had taken cover behind their horses, returning fire at the outlaws who'd appeared from nowhere. Ezra realized with grim satisfaction that Riddle had double-crossed everyone he'd used Morrison to flush them out, then attacked to take his prize. "The lock," June hissed, pointing to where the impact had twisted the wagon door. Ezra kicked hard. Once, twice. The third blow sent the door swinging open. "Move!" They tumbled out into a battlefield. Morrison's deputies were pinned down, caught between the wagon and open ground. Riddle's men had the high ground and numbers. "This way!" Ezra grabbed Boone while June pulled Clara, running for the ravine that cut along the road. Bullets sparked off rocks as they slid down the embankment. "Mama!" Clara cried as June stumbled. Her dress caught on thorns. "I'm all right, baby. Keep moving." Behind them, the firefight intensified. Someone screamed whether lawman or outlaw. Ezra couldn't tell. They splashed through the shallow creek at the ravine's bottom, using the banks as cover. "Where are we going?" June gasped. The old line shack, quarter-mile upstream. Ezra shifted Boone to his other arm, the boy clinging like a monkey. "If we can reach it." Hoofbeats thundered above. A rider appeared on the ravine's edge, rifle swinging toward them. Ezra drew and fired in one motion, the Colt bucking in his hand. The rider toppled backward. "Pa shot him," Boone exclaimed, then caught himself. "I mean, Mr. Ezra." "Pa's fine, son." Ezra's heart twisted at the word, but there was no time for sentiment. More riders were coming. They ran harder, June's breath coming in ragged gasps. Clara kept pace despite her short legs, fear lending her speed. The line shack appeared through the cottonwoods, barely more than 4 walls and a roof, but solid cover. Ezra kicked the door open, herding everyone inside. "June, there's ammunition in that chest. Clara, watch your brother." "I can help shoot," the girl protested. "You help by keeping Boone safe." Ezra peered through the window. Dust clouds marked approaching riders. Too many. "June, how many shells?" "Maybe 30. She broke open a box of cartridges. "Not enough." "It'll have to be." The first riders appeared, cautious after losing a man. Ezra recognized Luther Hobbs in the lead, Riddle's segundo looking thoroughly put out. "Langley," Luther called. "No need for more dying. Send out the woman and children. You can walk away." Counteroffer. Ezra replied, "You walk away, and I don't put a bullet through your other eye." Luther touched the scar where his left eye used to be. "Funny man. Let's see how funny you are when we burn you out." "You burn this shack. You burn your payday. Don't think Riddle wants to deliver charred goods to Judge Hutchinson." That gave them pause. Ezra heard muffled discussion. Then Luther again. 5 minutes to think it over. Then we come in shooting." June pressed against Ezra's back. "We can't hold them off. Not all of them." "I know." He turned to face her. "Take the children out the back. I'll keep them busy." "Stop!" June's green eyes blazed. "Stop trying to die nobly for us. We're in this together or not at all." "June." She silenced him with a kiss, fierce and desperate. "Together," she repeated against his lips. "Mama, they're moving," Clara called from the rear window. Ezra looked out to see riders circling, cutting off escape routes. But something else caught his eye. Dust in the distance, moving fast from the direction of the ranch. "Company coming," he muttered. The new riders swept in like avenging angels. Tom Brennan led them, the ranch hands armed and furious. But more surprising were the others: Jim Barton and his men, the Hendersons, even the Coopers. The neighboring ranchers had come after all. "That's my boys," Ezra laughed. Actually laughed. As the odds suddenly shifted, Riddle's men found themselves outnumbered and outflanked. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a rout. Caught between the shack's defenders and the charging ranchers, the outlaws scattered like quail. Some tried to fight. They didn't last long. Tom Brennan, mild-mannered Tom who wouldn't hurt a fly most days, rode down 2 men who'd threatened his boss's family. Jim Barton, whose wife June had saved, took personal offense to anyone trying to steal women and children. In 10 minutes, it was over. Ezra emerged from the shack to find Mark Riddle himself held at gunpoint by 3 ranchers. The outlaw king looked more annoyed than afraid, even with blood running from a scalp wound. "This is a mistake, Langley," Riddle said calmly. "You have no idea who you're crossing." "Judge Hutchinson," Ezra smiled coldly. "Let me worry about him. You can't fight a federal judge." "Watch me." Ezra turned to Tom. "Morrison. Dead. Took a bullet meant for one of Riddle's boys. Ironic, really." Tom spat. "His deputies scattered when they realized they were fighting half the valley." "Good. Jim, can you and your men escort Mr. Riddle and his surviving friends to the sheriff in Colby? I believe there are numerous warrants outstanding." "Be our pleasure," Jim Barton said grimly. As they prepared to move out, Riddle caught Ezra's eye. "This isn't over. Hutchinson will send more. Worse than me." "Then I'll stop them too." "Why?" Riddle seemed genuinely curious. "Why risk everything for a woman and 2 children who aren't even yours?" Ezra looked back at the shack, where June stood in the doorway with Clara and Boone. His family. His to protect. "You wouldn't understand," he said finally. "Try me." "Love," Ezra said simply. "That's why." Riddle stared at him for a long moment, then laughed, not mockingly, but with something almost like respect. "Love. Hell of a thing to die for. Hell of a thing to live for, too." They took the outlaws away in chains, using the same prison wagon that had carried June. Poetic justice, Ezra thought. But he knew Riddle was right. This wasn't over. Judge Hutchinson remained untouchable in Fort Smith, and he wouldn't take kindly to losing his prize. That night, the ranch house overflowed with neighbors and allies. Women who'd come to stand beside June. Men who'd remembered what community meant. They ate and drank and told increasingly wild versions of the day's events. "Should have seen Tom," Jake laughed. "Rode straight through their line like the devil himself." "You weren't so bad yourself," Tom countered. "That shot from horseback?" June found Ezra on the porch, escaping the noise for a moment of quiet. "Overwhelmed?" she asked. "Grateful." He pulled her against his side. "They came. When it mattered. They all came." "Because of you. The man you are. The ranch you've built. People respect that." "They came because of you, too. Those debts you mentioned." "Shh." June laid her head on his shoulder. "Let's not talk about debts tonight, or judges, or what comes next." "What should we talk about then?" "The future. Our future." She looked up at him. "You asked me something once. Said to ask again when the danger passed." "The danger hasn't passed." "It never will. Not completely. There's always another Wade Carroll, another Mark Riddle." June touched his face. "But I won't live my life waiting for perfect safety, so I'm answering now yes." "Yes. To whatever you were going to ask, yes to all of it." Ezra turned her in his arms. "June Hawthorne, will you marry me?" "Yes," She was crying and smiling at once. "Yes, you wonderful, stubborn fool." He kissed her there on the porch, aware of faces watching through windows, of cheers erupting inside. Let them look. Let the whole world know June was his, and he was hers, and God help anyone who tried to come between them. "Pa," Boone's voice interrupted. The boy stood in the doorway, Clara beside him. "Does this mean we can stay forever?" Ezra knelt to their level. "It means you're home, both of you. This is your place now, long as you want it." Clara threw her arms around his neck. "We want it forever." Forever it is, then. As the children ran inside to spread the news, June took Ezra's hand. "What about Judge Hutchinson? He won't stop." "Then we'll face him, together, all of us." Ezra squeezed her fingers. "I've got friends in Denver, lawyers who'd love to take down a corrupt federal judge. It'll be dangerous. Everything worth doing is—" June stood on her toes to kiss him again. "But tonight, let's just be happy. Tomorrow's troubles can wait." Inside, someone started playing a fiddle. Dancing broke out. Cowboys and ranchers celebrating life and victory and community. June pulled Ezra toward the music. "Dance with me." "I'm not much of a dancer." "Neither am I. We'll learn together." And they did, stumbling through the steps while their neighbors clapped and their children laughed. The house that had stood empty so long now overflowed with joy. Later, much later, when the guests had gone and the children slept, Ezra stood with June on the porch once more. The stars wheeled overhead, eternal and indifferent to human struggles. "No regrets?" he asked. "None. You?" "Just one." He pulled her close. "That it took so long to find you." June smiled against his chest. "Some things are worth the wait." In the distance, a coyote howled real this time. Not a signal. The sound was wild and free and full of promise. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats. Judge Hutchinson would have to be faced, his corruption exposed. There would be danger and probably blood. But tonight, Ezra Langley held the woman he loved while their children slept safe inside. His family, his home, his reason for fighting. The letter June had written her goodbye to the children if the worst happened lay forgotten in a drawer. She'd found something better than an ending. She'd found a beginning. And somewhere in the great tapestry of the West, their story wove itself into legend. The rancher who bought a widow at auction. The woman who found love in bondage. The children who gained a father. The community that stood together against corruption and greed. Justice would come for Judge Hutchinson. The Langley Ranch would prosper. Clara would indeed become a teacher, and Boone would raise the finest horses in 3 states. June and Ezra would have children of their own, adding to their unlikely family. But all that lay ahead. Tonight, there was just a man and woman on a porch, dancing to the music of the wind, writing their own story of love in the unforgiving land of the American frontier. The beginning. Thank you so much for listening to this Wild West love story. I hope you enjoyed following Ezra and June's journey from that harsh auction to finding true love and family. Where are you listening to this story from? I'd love to hear from listeners around the world. Please subscribe to the From Wild West channel and share your thoughts about which part touched your heart the most. Did you root for June and Ezra from the beginning? Let me know in the comments below.